All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode, I guess this is 7 of the stream. And today, what we're going to do is continue working on our model. But there is a little bit of a change here, and what I have done is I've kind of decided to take a different route. So, when we were working on this earlier, we had a different model, and I have it here somewhere. I think it's this one right here. So last we saw our model, it looks something like this. And what I did was I went ahead and rendered this with the new non-photorealistic rendering capabilities of ZBrush 2019. And we spent most of last time doing that. So this time what we're going to do is take a little bit of a different route, and I'll explain to you why that is in just a minute. But while that's happening, I want to just do a couple of things here for housekeeping and we can get started. Um, so everybody on the chat, if you want to um, say hi, um, this would be a good time to do it. Right. In the meantime, I just want to make sure I'm streaming this correctly on all the channels. I did some changes to my audio. I noticed that my audio was connected to my, um, here we go, right. Second, yes. Okay, here we go. And let's go ahead and post this. All right. So yeah, last time we were working on it, it was a different model. This is the one we were working on last week. And with the non-photorealistic render, I did a couple of renders of it. Here's one. So I did this render, and for me, I'm pretty happy with the result here. So instead of continuing to work this thing and bring it into a different kind of a photorealistic view, what I'm going to do is make some changes. Here's another render that I did last time. And again, this is just a straight out render using one of the existing filters that comes with ZBrush 2019. So I'm pretty happy with this kind of stage of this being finished. And what I want to do is I want to take it in a little bit of a different direction. So today is or this week was spring break week for the school that I teach at. So I had some time, and instead of teaching the class, what I did is I spent the time actually working on the model, making some changes, and the new one looks like this. So this is what we're going to be working on from this point forward. It's a little bit, it's a bit similar, but it's also a little bit different. And I'll talk about all the different changes I made, and we'll continue to work on this version of the model, which is kind of a little bit different than what we had before. And starting out, I'll just want to point out that what I did was in the older model, in this one, I basically took these inside parts, and let me solo these out. I took these inside parts like this one and this one. So these parts, and I think there's a couple more, maybe this one as well, and then this part right here. So I just basically took those parts and just combined them together in a Boolean. And in that Boolean, I basically created some sort of a shell for the guy. And so we can see kind of what the differences are. So starting out, oops, I think this is a T-pose version of it. Let me get back to this one right here and unsolo. So here is kind of what we're working on, and this neck part right here that goes around, that's going to be transparent. So here, if I render it with BPR transparency, you'll see that this is going to be a transparent piece, and it's going to look like this. So for kind of the um, civilian version of this robot, this would be just a transparent kind of a plastic material, and for the military one, this would be more kind of like a Kevlar or something that contains all the things inside. And to see what I did put inside of that, and let me just get to this piece and hide it. So what we have inside here are, I also fixed the pistons a little bit. I remember, I don't remember if it was episode 2 or 3, went ahead and made some parts for an IMM brush. So this is kind of the part, and I made some modifications to it to have it be a little bit more thicker around here. I thought that would look a little bit better, and then I put those on the neck area over here, which he's going to use, and then of course this thing kind of pulls in and this lifts up, and this entire head mechanism kind of moves back for it to go into quadruped mode. And then the other changes that I made, and we'll go through and look through those. So I made a little bit of changes to the helmet. We're going to be working on the helmet part today, so we're going to be working on this today, and possibly working on the arms and the legs. So those are the parts that I haven't really worked on. And then after a while, we're going to start adding some details over here. But let's go ahead and take a look at what our model looks like now. So here, I'll see if I can find the parts on the inside. So here is this part right here. So this part right here, I used panel loops, and by using panel loops, I just extracted out different pieces. So by using kind of a internal outline here, I basically separated these out and panel looped them out. And if you're wondering where panel loops are, they are in the geometry menu and under the edge loop section. So edge loop and panel loops, and that allows you to create these panels. So I created these panels, and I removed the inside part of them, so they're just kind of the outside shell. As you can see here, you can see a little bit through it. And I also added an inside piece, so this would be showing on the outside, and then there is an inside piece as well. And I guess I'll just go ahead and isolate it to just those two parts. So you can see here that I've got this inside piece as well, which looks like, which one has this one? It looks like I added these two pieces as an insert mesh brush, but I never separated them out. So I will go ahead and do that right now. So I'm just going to do this, Control, and actually, let me see if this works. So I'm just going to isolate this piece. Load my custom UI real quick. And I also, by the way, made some changes to my UI as well since that time. Since ZBrush 2019 is out, I actually put the cameras over here, 35 and 20 in focal length instead of having the previous thing. All right, so let's see if this works. Okay, so that's good. And what I want to do is hide these parts too. I don't know why. Let's try this. Nope. Is it still masked? I wonder if it's still masked and that's what's happening. Yep, it was. Okay, so I'm just going to split this later on. But I've got these two pieces, and then I've got this piece on the outside. Okay, so this is kind of what the model looks like, and I just figured that there are all these mechanical parts inside, and there are these panels that hide them, and people can replace and fix them. I figured this part right here could be the processor, and it just kind of comes out like a plug, and you can put in a faster processor to make it go faster. And yeah, so basically, oh, that's why that's the part's showing. It's because it's right here. Okay, so this would be kind of the different panel parts, and again, the legs I haven't finished. They are still a bit globby down here, and the arms I haven't finished yet as well. And there is an inside head part, and I haven't decided what I want to keep of this and what I want to get rid of. Kind of looks like a neat serpenty looking head. So for now, I think I'm just going to leave it be. And then I remove the tubes. I'll reinsert them again today. And then this is the top part of the head and the neck, and then the rest of the pieces. So here is what it looks like completely, and we're going to continue to work on it today. I also added the hands here. I added kind of a version of those as feet. They were pretty unfinished, and maybe we'll get some time to work on it today. All right, so now that this is all kind of said and done, let's take a quick look at the chat here, see if anybody's saying anything. Hello, Bonami, Worded Goose, amazing names. Warren, Sam. Good morning from the UK. Wow, 2 a.m. Rethon Studios. Okay. Good morning to you. And yeah, so good morning, everybody. Good evening. Good afternoon. Whatever time you have, and welcome to the stream. Okay, so just to kind of let everybody know, the stream happens every other Friday. So the next one is 2 Fridays from now, and it used to be Tuesday, but we moved it to Fridays. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. And also, I should mention that being a beta tester, Pixelogic has been really kind to give me a promotional code. So if anybody is interested in getting ZBrush for 6 months, the new subscription service, I have this promo code. I will leave it up for a few minutes here so you can write it down. I'll be posting this on my Instagram and also on my Twitter and Facebook as well. So if you don't get this here, you can always find me on Instagram or on Twitter or on Facebook, and this code will be there. And I think it's good until the end of the month. So it's kind of a neat thing for ZBrush for about half a year for I think about $150 after this $30 off promo. So anyway, hopefully you wrote it down. I'll take that down. And if you have any questions about it, please ask in the chat. It's kind of a cool thing that Pixelogic has done, and I'm really appreciative of the fact that they did that. Okay, so back to our model, and let's start kind of working on the different pieces. Okay, so here I want to create those tubes for the head, and I think I'm going to do that in the IMM brush selection. So what I'm going to do here is just kind of go back to that IMM tool and press F to get that to be full frame. Okay, and I wonder if I can use this piece or if I should just make one from scratch. I'll just make one from scratch. All right, so I'll just insert a Polymesh 3D here. And go ahead and initialize that as a Q-cube. There are different ways of starting out with a cube. This is my preferred way because not only do you get a cube, but you also get polygroups on each side, which can be helpful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this, that was wrong. I actually need a Q cylinder. So I need a Q cylinder Y. So I'm going to increase the resolution of X to 2 and Z to 2 and get one of these guys. Okay, so this is what I start out at when I want to make a cylinder in ZBrush. I just start out with a Q cylinder, either X, Y, or Z, doesn't matter. And whatever direction I pick, that's a 1, and the other 2 directions are 2s. So since I picked a Q cylinder Y, the Y resolution is 1, but the X resolution and the Z resolution are 2. And then after doing this, I go to the ZModeler brush and I do a QMesh polyloop, and I polyloop this. So that basically gives me a good kind of cylinder shape. And then I can just go in here and make this wider like so. And I'm just kind of figuring out what the width is that we're going to need. And maybe I'll just copy this so that we have the right dimensions. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and paste it into the model and position it so I kind of get an idea of what that is. So I'll just leave this here and then also go into the model itself, which is not this one, but this one. right here, and I'm going to go ahead and, oops, I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. Let's do that one more time. Here's the object. We're going to copy it, go to here, and paste. Okay, so obviously it's not where we want it to be. I'm just going to turn it this way, and then resize it. And remember, this kind of goes over here. So it looks like about this big is good. And then let's look at the length. This is about, it's way too fat. Maybe about that thick, maybe just a little bit bigger. I think that's actually pretty good. All right, so about that, that's what we want. I'm just going to put this back in the center, copy it, and then bring it back into the IMM tool and paste. I think right over here. And I'm just going to hide this one. This is what we're going to need to work on. All right, so now that we have this, let me just kind of pick a nice length for it. And that's good. And then what I want to do here is when I go ahead and add subdivisions to this or go into dynamic subdiv mode, it's going to turn into kind of this eggy shape, which is not what I want. So in order not to have that, I'm going to go ahead and crease the edges over here, but I want to crease the edge loops. Edge loop complete, 1 and 2. Okay, so there they are, and then so now if I press D, I get a full-on cylinder shape. And the other thing I want to do is maybe bevel these edges, and so I'm going to do that in the geometry and crease and bevel width. So just kind of add a little bit of a bevel there, and press D, maybe Shift D for now. I think that's a good bevel that we have, and what I want to do is I want to crease these two edge loops and the ones on the other side too, and then press D again, and this is exactly the shape I want. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and accept this dynamic subdivision. So here under dynamic subdiv, under geometry, tool, geometry, and dynamic subdiv, let's go ahead and apply this. So now it has been applied, and I have the polygons here to support some details I'm going to add on. Let me take a quick look at questions here, if anybody has any questions. So we got a nice group of people, so about 50 people, that's great. Welcome aboard, and then I'm going to make some changes and add some kind of detail to this. So it's basically just going to be a cylinder shape. It's not really going to have much in the form of things sticking out, but maybe what I want to do here is start polygrouping some things. So I'm going to hold Alt down. Oh, that's right. Let's see, this is 3 subdivision levels, 2, yeah, I want to keep it at 3. And I don't need the lower subdivision levels, so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. So I have a copy of it with all the subdivision levels, and then go ahead and delete all the lower subdivision levels because I don't really need them at this point. Okay, and then I've got this, and then I can start putting in some of my details. I wonder if I should even go in and have more. That's a bit too much, but what if I just divide it once? Like that. That's good, and maybe delete lower. So this is kind of what we've got, and this is what we need to work on. Okay, and then here I'm just going to go ahead and pick some, I'm going to do a polygroup action, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go in here and say what I want to do is polygroup, and I want to polygroup the polyloop, and I want, let's try and see what a checker pattern will look like, and we want to go in this direction. So it's going to be kind of a tough one to get, but not impossible. Here we go. All right, so now I've got kind of this checkerboard pattern on here, and what I might want to do is maybe QMesh this polygroup. Like so, and maybe not like that. Let's see. Interestingly enough, the number does not correspond to checker pattern, so we're going to go ahead and not do it that way, and we're just going to manually polygroup them. So no problem. It's easy enough. Single poly, so we're going to polygroup this one and this one. Let's pick a different color. Maybe this color, and let's see what material we're using. Basic material 2. Let's switch back to basic material 1 so we can see this better. Okay, so I'm going to just pick these two here. So just make sure we got the same color here. It's interesting trying to get a different color, but this is good. So we got that and that. And then we come over to this side. And what I'm doing is I'm just like looking at where the middle line is and adding those two sections there. So here's this and this. And last but not least, these two guys. And then what I want to do here is I want to inset these polygroup all, and let's try inset region, see how that works. So for some reason it does not want to work. Maybe I need to add an edge loop, which is easy enough to do. Insert single edge loop, maybe add one right here. Okay, and then insert inset polygroup all, inset region. Okay, here we go. All right, so I don't know why these two polygroups are not the same color. Do I have symmetry on? Nope. Okay, so this one and this one should be the same color. All right, we'll just do it this way. These two, these two, these two, and these two. Okay. All right, so now that we have those, let's see if the inset region works. Nope. Region, center and border, polygroup all. So here we go. This is exactly what I wanted. So I made that inset. And then what we want to do is QMesh polygroup all. And we just want to QMesh these in or out. Let's see. In looks interesting. Out looks interesting as well. I think I just want to go inward a bit. I think like that's kind of a neat little extra pattern there. Then maybe I'll do something over here too. Maybe pick the center. I keep accidentally deleting edge loops, which is not what I want to do. And then I want to move that in, maybe like so. Oh, did it pick the center? Did not pick the center. All right, we'll kind of grow this out to maybe be this way. If you haven't used polygroups and I'm just going to go ahead and make this to edge to do nothing so we don't have that problem. But using polygroups with ZModeler, you can get some really interesting things. Okay, so here we go, got that. Move it in. Maybe inset it a bit. Okay, inset region. There we go. And then maybe what I do here is I'll split this vertex to get kind of a circular shape, like so. There you go. And then I'm going to go ahead and QMesh polygroup all, just push this in like that. So maybe just these guys. Maybe push this out just like that. And then inset polygroup all region. Let's do this to it. And then maybe push this in like so a little bit, or maybe do this to it. Okay, so now we've got that. Well, interestingly enough, there were some other polygroups here that had the same polygrouping, so I'm not going to do that just yet. I just want to make sure I clear these polygroups. So go in here, grab this one, and polygroup all these outside ones in that polygroup so it doesn't, I don't know why I can't polygroup this one right here. Hello. That's funny. All right, let's do this. There we go. Pick. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this area over here, but for some reason I can't polygroup it. All right, well there's a whole other way of doing this. Let's see if this works. Do this, do this. And do I have that on both sides? Nope, Control A. All right, that did that. And I just need this side of it. I'll just mirror it over later on. Okay, so now we're good. This is what I wanted, and then I just want to make sure that this continues to be creased around. So crease, edge loop complete. Okay, and that's good. All right, we are in business. QMesh, polygroup all, and just want to do a little bit of this to it. All right, so that kind of adds some interesting minor details, and then maybe let's kind of try and do a QMesh of one of these rings. Poly loop, and let's try and see what the outer one looks like. No, maybe this one in a little bit, maybe in this way. All right, I think I'm liking that. The only thing I'm kind of not liking too much is that this detail here is too small. So what I'm going to do is select it. Let's see, I don't know why there's another subtool showing. I need to hide that. Okay, and maybe do this. And then let's scale that up. Let's see what that looked like. Oh, did it scale that? Maybe scale that just in two directions. All right, just going to mask this, unmask that. Okay, invert the mask, and let's see if this works. W, and what we want to do is just make it bigger this way. All right, this works kind of, but it doesn't because it's kind of going over the other geometry. So I'm just going to leave it as is, it's fine. Okay, so this is what we have, and I want to get this type of, yeah, I guess I don't need this type of stuff on the other side. All right, so I've got some minor details on here, and I might want to make some bigger changes, like maybe select this whole thing right here, and make that a little bit bigger. So let's put this in the center of it. And see, maybe add like some kind of this type of a thing to it. Okay, that's looking good. All right, so now that I like that, I'm just going to be inserting it in this way. And it's kind of, this thing's still bugging me. It's too small. All right, well, it just has to figure itself out, I guess. Let me see if I can. I think I just jumped ahead in time. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to be inserting this way. So there it is, and let's make sure. I'll go ahead and create a new insert mesh brush. And there it is. So I'm just going to create a new one for now. And now that I have that as a brush, and depth is maybe about there, let's go ahead and jump back into this over here, and I can do one of two things. I can either paint that on over here, or I can just replace this with it. And to do that, there's different ways of doing it. One way is if you just go to move and click on this, it changes it to that object. I don't know, is it too small, too big? Didn't do it. Okay. And another way to do it is we can just go ahead again once. Oh no, there it is. Well, where is it? Let's turn transparency on, see if we can find it. Oh, that's weird. That's a whole other part. Okay, but here is this part right here. Okay, and where is that in relation to everything else? Let's go ahead and put this at its center. So it's supposed to be here, but I don't see it. What's going on? Turn transparency off. Oh, there it is. It's tiny. All right, here we go. Just make it bigger. Move it up. Rotate it this way, I guess, 90 degrees. And we're going to be placing this at kind of where his kind of antennas or some sort of unit that goes into his head, like so. And I think I need to make it a little bit fatter, which is fine. So let's do that. Too much. Maybe about that much, and then we can kind of shove it in, turn it around a bit like this. I'm going to do this kind of with a discrete angle, maybe 20 degrees, and so there it is, kind of going into his head about here. See what that looks like. Way too big, way too big. All right, let's make that smaller this way and in this way. Still kind of, I think that's okay. All right, so let's look and see what this looks like if we put one on the other side. I think maybe rotate it up a bit. There we go. It's looking better. And then once again, go to the next mirror and weld. Okay, so that looks good. I'm liking that a lot, so those parts are going to stay there. And then these parts over here that I have to put them together, I just left those in here. They were from a kit bash kit I used, but at this point I don't think I'm going to need them. You see, maybe I'll need this outside part, so I'm going to get rid of these parts right here. Actually, I'm going to get rid of half of it already because I don't need half. Turn symmetry off. And delete what's hidden. And then on this one, I think I just want to delete. So again, go to the ZModeler brush, and I'm going to delete a poly loop here. Maybe keep that one and get rid of this one. No, I want to keep that one too. All right, that's good. And then let's delete this island. We're here, and so we just have this. And move that back into place. Let's wait until for ZBrush to save it. In the meantime, I can see, okay, Arthur is asking to see the entire piece, and sure, absolutely. As soon as this is done saving, I'll show you the entire model. Were you talking about the entire piece, meaning the entire model, or just this piece? I'm assuming you're mentioning the whole model, and this is what the whole model looks like. I'll do a quick turntable of it, so you can see all the way around. Okay, so some of the parts I'm happy about are this this neck piece that's going to be kind of a plastic or a cover of sorts, and then this chest part is also going to be kind of a softer material that bends, and so is this back part, and this whole thing kind of bends around and folds forward for him to go into quadruped mode. So the other question was, what is this? What is it going to be? It's just going to be like a multi-purpose robot. Like you would just buy it to, change your cat box and get your groceries and go get your dinner and drive your car, do all sorts of things. for us. So it kind of would be like a model that you buy, and then it basically goes in and does your work. Of course, it would have different functions. So there could be a medical emergency one. There could be one that goes into hazardous unit, hazardous areas. There could be one that is a kind of a detection, goes and finds certain things. So there could be, it's a multi-purpose robot. And so this is just, we're making kind of the generic version of it here, but the goal is by the end of the 9 streams we're going to do, and we're going to do 9 because initially it was 8, but last time I just basically talked about ZBrush 2019 more or less, so we're going to kind of not really include that one as a as something we're going to do. JHNLXS, does that answer your question on Twitch? All right. Okay, so now I'm just kind of trying to get to create a thing where these plug into. And these could be batteries, or they could be some sort of sensor units or something you can plug into it, right? So you'd kind of buy the original model, and then you can change out these parts, and maybe also change out the processor that goes here to get it to be faster and get new features and whatnot. Ideally, this would be a very modular type of robot where you can change out all the parts as time goes on. And this is just a concept, right? So, you know, I mean, something like this would have been used for the movie iRobot. I think they went with a really interesting humanoid-looking machine for that one. It was a nice design. I liked it a lot. But, you know, there's always remakes of things. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and delete some edge loops here. Simplify this part. Edge loop complete. That's gone, that's gone. And maybe this one too. See what that part looks like. And maybe I don't need this either. I'm trying to simplify this as much as I can so I can get it to be, yeah, this one too. So I'm just trying to simplify this so I can kind of get more of a straight object. So I'm just going to use clip curve here, clip this way, and this way. Right, so let's see what that looks like more or less, and then we're going to go ahead and add detail back into it. So this is just a piece that basically holds that other part in. And again, like I said, today we're going to work on the head and the arms and the legs, so that's kind of what we're doing right now. All right. Any new questions? Doesn't seem like it. Okay, good. So that's there, and then let's get a copy of it on the other side. So that kind of creates this interesting silhouette over here. So let's go ahead and put one of those on the other side. So that's good. And I'm just going to leave these simple for now and start working on the other parts. Now initially I'd brought in this piece right here as a kit bash, and it was a completely different part, and pushing and pulling on it, it's completely kind of falling apart. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this part, or replace it actually with a cube, and then move that cube into place. Over here, and start kind of having another thing that would be another part that would help the head. And again, I have a general shape of the head over here, so I could just continue working on it, but I'm also going to have another piece that maybe sticks out or does some other thing where it kind of sticks out in certain areas. Right, so that's good. Like so. Let's make sure symmetry is on. So let's do one of these. Turn symmetry on, and then Okay, so there's that. And I'm just basically using the clip brushes to get some sort of an interesting shape here, and then maybe add an edge loop. In the middle over here. Guess I could have gone for a 2x2 box, but it's cool. All right, do that. So this is going to just be a piece that's going to be inside of the head, like so. And maybe eyes or something come out of this, or some sort of cameras. And so I'm just basically creating some other module that maybe you can plug into here. All right, and then let's just move on to this piece. And this is a piece that I made using same kind of exact method. And what I'm going to do is make sure that this thing is symmetrical. So I'm just going to mirror and weld it. It is. Go back to this piece. It's really kind of interesting. I'm using a Wacom tablet. I'm using an Intuos medium tablet, which I find to be really good. I've been using Intuos tablets forever, for a long, long time ago. And I used to use them when they were devices for Windows for pens. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was for doing handwriting, and they weren't really using them for art just yet. And since then, Wacom has been making better and better tablets as time goes on, and this latest one is pretty sweet. All right, I'm kind of seeing a little bit of, no, I guess it is centered. All right. And by the way, I'm doing all this in isometric view because I'm just in design mode right now. And so I'm kind of getting an interesting looking thing here in the back. I'm kind of creating an interesting silhouette for my robot. So I'm kind of liking what's going on back here. Maybe not so much of a wedge shape this way, but these can come together as well. One other thing I should do here is change my document size. I'll do that next. So it basically takes over these areas. So document and window size, new document. Nope. And all right, here we go. This is better because then I got these lines on the side. Okay, so continuing on here. I don't know if I want to bring these in or have them show. I don't think so. So that's good. Just bring them in that way. And then I'm going to add one more edge loop over here. And maybe put this in ghost mode and try and do this from the inside. So this is what it looks like on the inside this box. And like I said, we're probably not going to see a lot of it, but just some of it over here. And maybe we'll have some cameras or something coming out of it. Okay, I'm liking that. So now let's add some, so primary forms on this are good. Let's kind of think about maybe some secondary forms. Why everybody's so quiet? A lot of these just seem like I'm talking to very few people, but there's like 65 people watching. And of the 65, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people have actually said something. I guess, 1 out of 6 is not bad. All right, so I'm basically just putting in these crease lines over here, and then I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier, see if that makes an interesting shape. So here I'm just going to go under crease and add a little bit of a bevel. That looks okay, but I also want to get these edges too. So let's see what happens now. Okay, that's good, and maybe add resolution of 1 to this. So we get quads. type it in and change this bevel width to be maybe about, and just play around to kind of get an interesting shape. I like this one. Let's see if it looks good from far. Maybe a bit too much. There, okay. All right, people said they're doing their thing while watching. That's awesome. And okay, so there it is. Are people, do people work usually like on ZBrush when they're watching this? I don't know. Anybody working on ZBrush while you're watching? Thank you. Hexaflexagon. Thank you very much. All right, so all right, I think this is looking good. All right, so I think this is kind of good like that. Maybe push this back a bit. And I want to get more of a straight line here. That's good. I think this is looking okay for now. And I think I'm going to push this forward just a little bit like that. And I think this is good. Some people are working on Photoshop. You know, one of the things I did on my Instagram recently is I used NPR render to go ahead and do some renders of a kind of a comic, an illustrated comic, and it was really nice experience. And you can see them on my Instagram. And one of the things I really enjoyed doing was loading NPR images into Photoshop and doing a little bit of manipulation in there as well. And I use this plugin right here, which is the ZBrush to Photoshop. If this stays up, this plugin right here, which comes with Photoshop. I'll bring that up one more time. I guess I need to use my mouse so it stays there. And this one right here. And it's super, super useful because it just basically outputs all these layers for you. And in Photoshop, you can work on compositing them in a kind of more creative way. And that was really, really beautiful. All right, so Gear Jim is working on a bust. That's awesome. And Ali is thinking about getting into ZBrush. Yep, highly recommended. Oh, so somebody else is also working on a robot. That's great. Fantastic. So you're basically working on ZBrush and you're looking over every once in a while at what I'm doing. Sounds like fun. All right. I think this one I'm going to try and figure out what to do with this edge. I mean, eventually it'd be cool if these two kind of merge together somehow, but for now it's not going to happen. All right, so now let's shift over to this piece right here. And I'm going to go ahead and I think even though I worked on it a little bit, I'm going to hide these pieces and see if I can do the connector thing better. So these ones right here that I worked on, I'm just going to go ahead and hide them for now and see if I can produce something better with this part right here. All right. Gear Jim, what kind of a, what version of ZBrush are you using? Did you get to 2019? Right. Wow, 74 people. Pretty amazing. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, 2019 is the way to go. I kind of like ZBrush because when they come out with a new version, I mean, we test the crap out of it when we're beta testing. So we make it run through a lot of its cycles. So when it comes out, it's usually pretty good. And then at some point, I'm sure they'll come up with an update. But for now, it works really nice. I haven't had too many problems with it. And okay. Yeah, the new ZBrush is really, really good. Oh, I should mention this. I'm sure if you watch his stream, it's good, but ZBrush guides. I don't know if you guys know Pablo, but he also streams. So ZBrush guides, and he has a great website. It's really pretty useful for. Here we go. Bring it over. This is it, ZBrush guides, and so he's got a lot of tutorials and a lot of really neat stuff on here. And he just put this one up, which is 2 new lessons, I guess, or overviews of the new ZBrush. And if you're just getting into it, of course, you can watch the broadcast, which is really useful, but you can also watch these guys right here. He goes through the new ZBrush. He goes through what he does with the cameras. He explains what some of the settings for the cameras are. And yeah, so he does a really good job of, here he's talking about folders. And then in the other one, he talks about the NPR renders and some of the other features as well. Excuse me. So it's pretty useful if you're just getting into ZBrush 2019. I think this is a good way to, if you know ZBrush, it's a good way to kind of get into it. And I always like pick 1 or 2 things up every time I look at these. So here he's explaining what these do and how they work, and he does these great diagrams of what the different things are. So he shows it in a very nice visual way, and I really like the way he does tutorials. So if you are interested in taking a look at this, his name is Pablo Munoz, and his website is ZBrush Guides, and there's a whole bunch of goodies on there. And I send my students to it all the time, and every once in a while I go there for some tips on things as well. All right, so let's see what's going on with these guys. I think I can move them out a bit, like so. Turn symmetry on. I have a feeling these got connected somehow. Let's see. Yep, they did. Over here. It's just fine. I don't really need that part, so I can just basically go in here and delete these 2 edge loops, and that'll fix itself. Just let me do it this way. So here, insert edge loop over here. Insert single edge loop like that, and then delete poly loop. And I just want to delete these 2 poly loops like that, and then I'll just delete this island. So I get rid of that middle part, and I think this is good enough. Nobody's going to see inside here, so we're good. And I don't think I'm going to pull that thing out any further than it is, so it's pretty solid. Okay, so now that we, maybe, now that I just said this, I want to go out just a tad more, and also back a tad more like this. Here we go. Okay. All right, so it still kind of has the same look of my previous one, but it's kind of got an interesting aspect to it. And I might make 2 more of these somewhere, but I haven't decided on that yet. All right, so let's kind of work on this head a little bit more. I still have stitch on, so maybe I can do this over here and add these eyes. And what I want to do here is QMesh, polygroup all. And maybe push these in like so to create like eyes, and then just kind of smooth this part out. All right. I don't know if these are nostrils or eyes, but this is where they're going, like so. They look like eyes to me. I'm trying to see if that works. Kind of doesn't. So I'm going to go back and try and do that somewhere else. where it makes more sense. Let's see. What if I move this back over here? I'm going to hide this other box for now. There is stuff showing up underneath here, and that's basically the face that I had. So I'm just moving all this back to see if I can recreate those that eye kind of thing that I did, but have it be more in the back. Okay. Maybe back here somewhere. Nope. I think this will do it right here. All right, and then let's just apply group that and Q mesh it inwards. Okay, that's good. And then all right, we lost some people. We're back to 62. Oh, hey, Ben Vicar. How's it going, man? I always like it when you join. If you folks haven't seen his work, it's pretty amazing. It's like one of the most amazing sculptors. Right, I'm kind of liking this, kind of not. Looks like a deer almost. That looks horrible. So here I'm just kind of trying to tweak the eyes to get some sort of an eye design that I like. This is looking good. I think what I'm going to do for a while is I'm going to turn some music on and just sculpt quietly while the music is playing. And if you have questions, you can let it know. Give it rabbit ears, like apple seed. I'll see. I mean, there's a lot of different options I have here. You know, this is basically part of the design process. The head is something a lot of people look at, so I'm going to spend a good amount of time kind of tweaking this to get it to be exactly what I want it to be. So here we go. I'm going to turn some music on here. And work. Sorry, I'm trying to find a better tune. Some of those were putting me to sleep. Starting to look like a mouse. Oh, say something. All right. I was just going to be quiet for a little bit and sculpt, but I can continue to talk for a while. All right, I'm going to turn the music down and continue working on here. All right. So this part is pretty it's pretty low res. I mean, if you look at it, it's not very high res, but I'm getting some interesting shapes here that I'm going to explore further later on. But I'm just basically laying down the groundwork for it. I'm just assuming that this thing has a kind of an inside part that has these metal grills, and this is a plastic part that fits on top of it. And if you want to see how, where I'm getting the industrial design of this is if you open up some really high-end cars and look at the engines, they usually have very interesting super designed covers, and they often look something like this. And also this is going to bend, so it's going to be a kind of a stretchy material. Right, and then let's look at the back here. All right, that's looking good. So what I want to do here with the head is at this point I want to go ahead and just for kicks throw it into organic sculpting mode. So I was using ZModeler initially, but here what I want to do maybe is zero mesh this or dynamesh this thing. And let me go ahead and crank up the sub projection, put on project, very little blur, and that's good. Let's just dynamesh it, see what we get. Whoa, that's a lot of polygons. Oh, it's because it's in dynamic subdiv mode. Right, and let me do this one more time. That's not bad. Okay, so that just gives us a little bit of room to go ahead and sculpt on. And so here I can just go in and start doing the same thing that I was doing earlier, but now I'm actually using some of the sculpting tools. So some good ones to use are H-polish. to get hard surface designs. So here I'm trying to find some interesting lines that I can explore. This kind of looks too much like a dragon over here, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to be something else. So you can see here that I'm already getting some interesting shapes that are coming out at me, and all I need to do is just push those shapes to get what I want. All right, show the sketch. Irregular, what do you mean by the sketch? Irregular from YouTube. I guess maybe we should wait a couple of minutes for this to catch up, and then he can tell me what he means by sketch. Right, just looking too horizontal and vertical, so I'm going to try and get some aggressive angles here. Maybe this way. It's too aggressive. Something like this. There we go. And then go over and switch over to Damien Standard and start finding some lines in here. Maybe not so big. Let me redynamesh this. Irregular, still waiting for your information about what do you mean by sketch? Do you mean like a drawing that we did? I didn't do this from a drawing. I started this completely in 3D. This is 100% 3D project, no sketch. Sometimes I sketch beforehand. Sometimes I do sketching on the iPad or in Photoshop or in Procreate. But if I'm at a PC, I'd rather just go in straight into 3D. I'm pretty good with not wanting to use not going to 2D first, but going right into 3D. Hope that answers your question, but if it's something else, let me know. Oh man, totally don't like those eyes. I had it. Let's see if I can make these work somehow. Again, I'm trying to get something of a look that hasn't been done a million times, which is kind of hard to do, but not impossible. All right, looks like we added a couple of people. I'm going to do this over here. So right now I'm just basically chopping this thing up, trying to figure out some sort of interesting shape, and switching between a few brushes, Damien Standard, H Polish, and I used Trim Hole there for a second, and just trying to see if I can get some interesting kind of shape here to pop out. I don't want this thing to look too menacing because it is going to be something that, like, you know, let's redynamesh it. It's going to be something that basically could be a household robot, or you don't want your Roomba to be all aggro. Okay, still not happy with the mouth area. All right, so let's see how this compares to what we had before, because I saved a copy of it. It's a lot shorter. So let's bring it out. Baron King Reborn, thank you. All right. So about a half an hour left. I think I'm going to work on this a little bit more over the weekend, but we have 3 more sessions, and that's plenty of time to finish this thing out. At some point, I'll take this into Keyshot again and see if we can do some sample renders and see what it would look like in Keyshot. Okay, so there's that. And let's turn this off. I'm liking this head a lot more. It's finally doing what I want it to do. So it takes a little bit of time, but really lends itself to iterative design. Okay, and we go to H-polish again and work on this area. If you guys have questions, please ask. All right, so let's solo this thing out again and see over here. Right, this is looking good. So now that I have the shape that I want, now I'm going to figure out, okay, well, if we had the shape, how would we open it up? So maybe add some paneling or cut lines to it. And here again, I'm being really kind of very loose and rough, but I will refine it a little bit more. And that's basically how I did the chest. So if you look at the chest area over here, this area, and the entire kind of back, this part over here, this is exactly the process that I did it with. So I basically just kind of, I go back and forth between either using ZModeler to going to sculpting, doing kind of some freeform stuff, organic but hard surfacey, and then keep going back and forth until I find the shape that is interesting to me. Right, it's kind of interesting, but these eyes that are popping out behind it look interesting, so I'm going to try and see if I can replicate that on this one. No idea what I'm doing. Oh, here we go. See it now. Right. So this is kind of creating an interesting type of receptacle over here. And then there'd be another piece that maybe comes on top of that. So this part over here could be like a piece that opens up. Trying to figure out what's the best way to cut up this part over here. All right, any questions? Seems like none. Anybody here a student watching? My students did their midterm projects, which was a sculpt. A lot of these folks hadn't used ZBrush before, and now they have some really impressive first sculpts that they've done. And that was their first project. And when we get back from Spring break, we start on our final project, which will go on for about 5 or 6 weeks. And then the semester is over. But I can't complain. They did amazing work. And as a teacher, that's always a very satisfactory thing. All right. One person is a student and another person mentioned that they wish they weren't a student. Why is that? Just curious. Is your school not good? Do you not like your teachers, or do you just not like school? Right now this is looking a lot more organic than um, hard surface, but I will get it to look like hard surface very soon. Yeah, I always enjoy being a student. I still take courses every now and again. It's always good to kind of refresh your knowledge and learn something new. There's always amazing artists doing amazing stuff. And you can always pick up a thing or two. I kind of like this Pixelogix streaming because I think it's also a good way to have stuff online that you can use to get better. Every chance I get, I'm watching a video on their channel, on their YouTube channel. Right. So I think I've got some interesting looking shapes here. And let's go ahead and see if I can clay polish this and get some harder edges. There we go, that looks better. One more time. Yep. So now it's looking a lot more hard surfacey. And yep, I'm liking this a lot. So I'm just going to continue to do this. And let's see, do I have polygroups on this? Or is it just one poly? Oh, yeah, but the polygroups don't matter. All right, I'm just going to polygroup it. One polygroup. And then try and redynamesh it so it gets those edges. And then let's see, I don't think I'm going to zero mesh it just yet, but I might give it a little bit more geometry. I think 128 is too little. So, Dynamesh. Let's double that. Let's go to 512. No, 256. Okay, here we go. All right, that's a little bit more geometry. I can work better with that. Clay polish is really good to kind of bring up surfaces. You still have to, it kind of looks a little too World of Warcrafty sometimes, but you know, we just hit it with H polish and get some of these planes established. Like there's definitely a plane here, there's one here. Maybe I can extend that one all the way down. So I'm just basically finding the planes of work. I might go a little bit overtime today if I don't really have a thing to go to. I do. There's a cool concert I wanted to go to, but it's not going to happen, which is fine. They'll be back. But since I'm not going anywhere, I'll just stay on a little bit longer because this is what I'm going to be doing anyway. All right, and then let's go to Dame Standard, start pushing some of the stuff in and out. Yeah, how did the music turn back on? Okay, Gear Jim. You're asking about tutorials. So yeah, they do. They have tutorials online. And also, I was mentioning this earlier. If you go to ZBrush guides, so ZBrush guides, and let me see, do I still have it? I do. I'll bring it over. If you go to ZBrush guides here, so ZBrushguides.com, like this. And Pablo just put up a couple of really good tutorials. I'll just go back to home here. So the Intro to ZBrush 2019 Creative Boost, and there's 2 of them, right? And he's got all sorts of good stuff. So there's always that. And if you just go to his webpage, I think he just highlights the 2 new ones. So if you just kind of go down here, Creative Boost, ZBrush 2019, and Productivity Boost. So these 2 here are really good tutorials for the new stuff. And if you watch last week's video, I go through some of it and show it as well. So yeah, a lot of good stuff in 2019. I already am finding myself, you know, when I go back, when I teach at school, they still have 2018 on the machines because they only update the machines at the end of every semester. So since 2019 came out mid-semester, they're not going to get it. So when I go back to using 2018, I miss a lot of the features. I miss folders a lot. Folders are great. And the camera is pretty cool. And NPR is one of those things, non-photorealistic render is one of those things where you can eat up a lot of time and you can make some really interesting looking things. So for example here, if I just went ahead and said, okay, well what does this thing look like in a non-photorealistic render? This head's looking way too big. Let me chop this front part off a bit. Like so. Oh wow, that looks good. Let me see if I can even take that further. Too much. Maybe just about this much. There we go. That looks good. Redynamesh it and smooth this part out. That's kind of cool how this other part came out of it. But let's say if I want to see what this looks like as a BPR render, this is looking really head heavy. So there's another trick I'll show you that I keep using, which is really good. But before that, let's just go ahead and do an MPR render. Why not? So here you just go to render, the render menu, and go to a render set, and then initially you just start out with one of these. So I like this one, so I'll go ahead and start this one, which is kind of like more like a painting. And now that I have that loaded, I'll go ahead and excuse me, as soon as this finishes saving, it's a good break for me to grab a swig of tea. All right, and let's go and see what that looks like. So close Lightbox, and let's go ahead and render this. Whoa, let's go ahead and go to 35mm here. We don't have symmetry on. So here's perspective, and you can see here that I already get like really compelling looking render right off the bat. And this is just using one of the MPR renders. So this kind of looks like it's a sketch or a Photoshop painting. And once I have the thing loaded, then I can just go into BPR filters. And I really like this part of it right here, is I just go into BPR filters, and I don't have to render every time. I just go and start saying, oh, what does it look like with this filter? So I just double click on this one, and that looks pretty neat too, right? So here I'll make Lightbox so it's not, see if this can be rolled over. Top part rolled over? No. Okay, so I guess we'll just have to stick with 3. So if I want to see what this looks like as charcoal, for example, I can just double click on this, re-render it, and there it is in charcoal 1, and then double click on this one. Here's charcoal 2. How about this one right here? What does it look like that? And how about dark ink? Okay, so that's kind of interesting. So let's take a look at that. So you can get some really interesting looking effects from BPR render. And then if you want to go back to the way it was, you can always load in the defaults. And there it is. And then just, then just render it this way. And you'll see here that I've made this part transparent. So when I do the BPR render, the parts inside are going to show a little bit. And another thing I can do here is, I think I've got flat shadows on, but another thing I can do here is hide that part so you can see the inside. So you can see kind of there's these pistons inside of the neck area, right? And then this part that's going to cover it up is going to be transparent. Okay, so I'm also going to load this into Keyshot, but maybe I'll do that next week. Right now I just want to get to a point where I have more of this head finished. Let's go back over here. I thought I'd get more done today, but I think we're having some good times with the head, right? So maybe chop it up that way, go to the inner part. And I always keep a history of my previous pieces when I make a swift change, just so I can have the other one as well to work with. So here, let me choose Move Brush. And a lot of, my kind of workflow here is a lot of hotkeys and also a lot of menus that I've made myself. And if you want to know how to do that, same thing, ZBrush Guides. Pablo has some really good tutorials on how to make your own UI as well. And I highly recommend that if you are going to use ZBrush, to at first kind of get used to the main UI for a little bit, and then as soon as you can start making your own, and it makes a big difference. So here I'm just basically mixing these two different pieces and redynameshing, trying to get an interesting look. I'm kind of getting a very interesting kind of animal skeleton look here, and I need to make it a little bit friendlier, so I might soften up some of these edges, but I'm really liking what's going on here. And these sockets I'm going to put some cameras through, so I'm not really worried about what they look like right now, but I'm getting kind of very close to the final shape I want. And I think this is going to work fine. So the other thing I was going to talk about is how do I kind of change the proportions. So this looks like it's got a smaller body and a big head. And if I want to work on the whole model, the whole thing, and not just the subtools, I use this plugin, which is really useful, called Transpose Master. So it's right here. And it's got these two buttons that I will use. So first one is T-Pose Mesh. So I'll go ahead and click that. So by the way, it's always a good idea to kind of save your document before this. So I'll go ahead and do a quick save and read some of the comments here. Let's see. Okay. Oh yeah. I mean, ZBrush, I think a lot of the kind of the concept designers that are really working on very high profile projects, I think a lot of them use ZBrush already, exclusively. All right, so here what I did was, what I'm going to do here is just go in here under Z plugin, under Transpose Master, and click on T-Pose Mesh. And what that's going to do is it's going to take all of these subtools that are visible, and it's going to create one model with all these different subtools. So there it is, right? So here, and it's right here. And what I'm going to do now is kind of work on the proportions and maybe work on the gesture a little bit. So here I'm going to mask the head that we worked on right there. And maybe I should use mask lasso. Like so. Flip that mask and then go in and see if I can make this a little bit smaller. Right, and that's making all the subtools smaller, right, and positioning this. So that looks a little bit better. The neck is a little bit long because once this thing goes into quadruped mode, it's going to turn its head and be this way, right? So, and the hand and the arms are going to be sideways. So that's why I kind of have a head that's a little bit, a neck that's a bit longer than, usual. So now I'm basically evaluating silhouette, go into silhouette mode, and that looks a little bit better than before, which is this. So that looks kind of cool too in silhouette mode. I don't know, I guess I'll do an online vote. What do you guys think? Bigger head or smaller head? Bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller. Wait a few minutes for the stream to catch up. Kind of even looks cooler like this. And here I'm just looking at silhouette. Maybe unhide this mask. Vote small. Okay, I agree. We're going to make it small. And let me make sure I have symmetry on, and then just kind of tweak the silhouette a bit. So see here, I'm tweaking the entire model as one model, right? And maybe bring these in a bit, take these out, add a little bit more kind of angle to the knees. And let me go back to basic material here. All right, I'm kind of liking what I'm getting here. So now I'm happy with this. And then I go back to that same plugin, Transpose Master, and I go T-Pose to Subtools. And then it goes and takes all the changes that I made, the sizing, the whole 9 yards, and puts them in the main model. All right. Did this Beitlers one more time? What are we talking about? I'm sorry. All right, so now we have all the parts here, and this front look here is looking very Momo. So I'm just gonna maybe go to this tool right here. Yeah, I think this eye socket thing will be better once I put a couple of cameras in there. Interestingly enough, these cylinders on the side got a bit oblong. So let me see if I can make that work. If not, I can always pop in a couple of other ones. Since I have it as an insert mesh brush, it's easy to do. So what I like about ZBrush is that you have hard surface, but you can also give it kind of a bit of an organic twist, and it creates interesting things. No, this isn't going to work, so we got to get rid of them. Sometimes if you have objects that are like this, and the other ones that I was wondering about are the pistons, so let's see if those got tweaked as well. No, those look good. Okay, so but the ears got to go. I got to put in new ones. Right, so let's just make sure those are selected. They are. Where are they? Right there, and I'm just going to go ahead and delete them. And move on back to this model right here. And go to my insert mesh brush that I made. Right here, and reinsert those ears. Kind of drop out of this mode. All right, there we go. Okay, and then out. Maybe I think what's happening is that this is going through and connecting. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make it so it's further away from the base. So let's go ahead and do it over. Pick this brush, Q. Yeah, there we go. That's what I want, and then I can tweak it after that. I just don't want them to connect to each other. Actually, even better, I'm just going to do this on one side. So I'm going to turn symmetry off and just put one of these on, and then actually I want to do something even further. I'm just going to add it as a mesh from brush. So I'll just append or insert polymesh 3D. And pick this brush like so. And then I think it's one of these guys. Nope. Mesh from brush. Why isn't it doing it? There we go. Here we go. All right. I'm going to use a really cool feature here. I don't know if you guys have used the deformers, but they're super, super helpful. I'm going to use the extender and move the extender point over here and bring this in just a bit, like so. Okay, that's good. And I can erase some edge loops here that I don't need. Right, so I'm not going to do anything for face, but for edge, I'm going to delete edge loop. Complete. If I could ever point to an edge loop, come on, this one. That didn't seem like what I wanted to do. How about I do this? Nope. Maybe the extender didn't do what I wanted it to do. I can do what I want to do this way too. Just mask this part and then bring this part in. Mask it, bring this part in. There. This works too. Okay, and then move the whole thing to where it needs to go, into his head. Like so. Okay, the other new thing that they added in 2019 that like makes my life so much easier is the ability to do a mirror and weld. But usually when I did a mirror and weld, so if I have my object here on the right, if I did a mirror and weld before, it didn't copy to the other side. So I had to do a mirror first and then do a mirror and weld. But now, if I just do a mirror and weld, it works. How cool is that? All right. Okay, so now we can kind of tweak these to have them be where we want them. These are way too fat. Need to make them a bit thinner. And move them back here. Maybe that's too thin. Actually, they're not too bad. Ooh, I'm liking this a lot. Okay, so that's the winner right there. All right, just move it down and over a bit. There we go. All right, I don't care what's happening inside, but I like what's happening on the outside, so that's good. And now I want to make the cameras, and I'm going to try and do something kind of crazy here and use that same piece. No, maybe not. We'll go and get another one. All right, so I'm going to make another insert mesh brush. So here we have this one that we made, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to that cylinder we made earlier, which was this, and I'm going to try and make some lenses out of it. So let me polyframe that. And how many levels is this? Actually, let me duplicate it first so we have a copy to work on. Right, and then let's go down to level 1 here, maybe level 2, press dynamic subdivision, delete higher, D. Okay, and now let's kind of think about what lenses would look like. So I think that this effect here isn't going to cut it, so I'm going to make that smaller and maybe push these two polygroups in. And once again, these are, it looks like there's a lot of polygons here, but realistically it's just a very simple model. It's just this. If we shift D it, I'm just working on this. But with dynamic subdivision, it looks like there's more to it. And I'm also going to turn on the camera here. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and polygroup, single poly. And I don't know why it's cycling through polygroups again, but that's not what I want. Let's see, polygroup, single poly, overwrite. Oh, that's why checker is on. Okay, one group ID. I think I'm doing something here with edge, so I'm just going to do nothing with edges. Okay, so this is kind of just painting these guys to a single polygroup here, and I'm going to Q mesh that polygroup. Polygroup island. Right, so it's kind of going to be like a lens of sorts. I'm trying different options here to see what works. Maybe a little bit of incline that way, and then continue to move it down like this. Right, and then maybe do another one, which is inset polygroup island and region, and do this to it, and then Q mesh this thing in. Q mesh polygroup island, do it. Here we go. Right, so this is kind of the lens effect I want. And then here I'm going to bevel this edge loop. So here, bevel, edge loop complete, and let's bevel that edge loop. Maybe not single row, that's what we want. That's good. And then maybe bevel this outside one as well. Or kind of leave it like that. Okay, so this is kind of going to be our camera eye. And then what I'm going to do is maybe stick out the whole lens from this. So see if I can make this work. It's a bit too much. Here we go. Let's make symmetry on. Also here I'm going to turn on radial symmetry and just kind of hit this up like so. And then I'm going to, now the good news here is that all of this is very quick because it's all, it's just very few polygons I'm tweaking, right? And Q mesh polygroup island, why is that not moving out? Okay, one more time, nope. All right, I think this is good. I'm gonna do one of these to it. Okay, and then turn off radial symmetry. And Tetris God, hey, how's it going, Tetris God? Um, edge loop complete. And what I want to do is crease this edge loop. Crease, edge loop complete. There we go, and one more over here. Okay, so now I've got a good kind of camera lens looking thing. And let's work on the outside a bit. So just going to insert an edge loop here. All right, so for those of you that are just joining us, we're going to go a little over today, maybe another half an hour or so. So it's right now almost 9 o'clock, but we're going to continue on for a little bit longer since this is what I'm going to be doing anyway. Might as well be doing it on camera. And let me see here. So see, this is what we're working with right here, just this really simple piece of geometry, but when we dynamically subdivide it, we get something a lot more sophisticated. And here I want a QMesh poly loop. And okay, turn on symmetry for now. QMesh poly loop. Okay, that should just do this part right here, right? It's kind of doing something to everything, and that's not what I want. Oops. I just want this one part. Let me see if I can turn dynamic subdivision off. There we go. I don't know why when I do this, it's affecting this other area. But what I'm going to do is add a couple other edge loops here. So I'm just going to add these two. That's so weird. Well, you can always mask the stuff you don't want to mess up. And also maybe turn poly perspective off here. All right, now it's doing what we want to do. So let me go back to dynamic subdiv. Yep, that's good. One more, that's good too. And let's crease up this edge on the inside. All right, so that's going to be kind of our lens, and I don't need it to be this long. Maybe about that long is good. And clear that. I'm just going to copy this. I'm not going to make a brush with it right now. I'm just going to copy it, but later I'll make an insert mesh brush with all of these. And I intend to give you this too, so eventually I'll share it either on a Gumroad or on, I don't know, somewhere. I'll make sure I make it available to you. All right, let's jump back to our model here. There it is, and let's paste this. Not in lieu of these guys, but in addition to, there it is. And now let's move this up. To wait for the save to happen. All right. And let's turn this lens around 90 degrees and put it in place. Over here like so, maybe it needs to be smaller. Right, just get the right angle for it. And I kind of like the shape that it makes when it intersects, and I might keep that. So here I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger, and that's pretty cool. Again, mirror and weld, adds it to the other side. These back, up. Let's see if we make it longer. let's see if I can get it to be, if it's going to be an interesting feature if it does this. And it sure is. So what I need to do is get rid of those holes underneath. Okay. So I go back to this part here, solo it out, and I'm going to use just the close holes function to close those up. I'm not going to get quads, but that's not bad actually. And get this, and then start tweaking this bottom shape to accommodate for what I just did. Maybe it goes this way, and then this inside part. Man, I hate it when I forget to turn symmetry on. It's fine. Okay, move this up. And over, and you can see what I'm getting, the final shape I'm getting is kind of a combination of the two shapes. So it's a combination of this one and the one on top. Let's bring these in. Okay. Now I'm not liking the eyes being there too much. That's what I like about ZBrush, is you can just continue to kind of iterate and modify and refine your design as you go on. And that makes kind of a bit of a big difference when you are iterating. If you're working with a director and he wants changes made, you can make them quickly. And in this case, if you don't have an art director and you're art directing yourself, you can also kind of go back and forth and figure out something that works better. And I think this is looking pretty good to me. Thing that is lacking is this middle area of the head. So I think I had another piece somewhere. This one, let's see if this one makes that look, if I can kind of break that up somehow by this piece over here. All right. Here I'm just trying out something that I like, and again, I am only going to do one side of this, so I'm looking at the left and the right, so let's see what that looks like. So let's mirror this over, nope, and then let's do the opposite. Nope, I don't like either. I kind of like the silhouette that it's making, more or less, but I don't like, that's maybe better. All right, that's working. So now I have something kind of sticking on top here, and maybe what I'll do is Q-mesh this polygroup island as well. Like so. Like so. So he looks like he's got some sort of a hat. All right. It's too horizontal and vertical. Okay. I'm going to completely get rid of this thing, and I'm going to see if I can do something sculpturally. So I'm going to pick one of these two and sculpt on it. So this one over here I think is good. I'm just going to duplicate it and hide that, and let's go ahead and Dynamesh this. Maybe 512 this time, and again do this to it, turn blur down, project on, and Dynamesh, and I get this kind of shape, and I'm going to turn polyframe off, and let's see what it looks like solo. It looks okay. I think it has some weird stuff going on in certain places. So I'm going to Dynamesh it one more time. Maybe choose lower subdivision level. Maybe let's try 128. Trying to get rid of this choppiness over here. I don't know why it keeps doing it. Maybe because I got blur down to 0. Let's pop that back up to 2. back to whence it was this way, and then 128 project. Okay, that's good. Let's see what that does. A little bit better, not much. This area here is really funky, so I'm going to see if I can fix that before I Dynamesh. I think that's what it is. Right, and here we go. Perfect. There's some weird stuff going on with the mouth. Let's see if we can fix that too. Oh, that's because there's this additional piece. All right. Delete island. This piece is gone now, and let's make sure we don't have it still on delete island. All right. Okay, so now Dynamesh should work just fine. Perfect. This is exactly what I want. All right, so now what I want to do is see if I can get something interesting going on with this piece sculpturally. So again, I'm just going to go to, this time I'm going to try and use clay tubes, mix it up a bit, and maybe start. Okay, what piece am I on? Yep. Solo this out. Shouldn't be that dense. I don't know what this deal is. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bump up the resolution to 512, re-Dynamesh it. All right. Okay, so this is what the new one looks like. And can I sculpt on this? It's getting a little bit choppy. So I'm going to try and use H-polish, see if that works better. If it's going to give me similar issues. It is. I think I probably should restart ZBrush. All right, well, I'll pick it up from where this is. What time is it? Oh, man, we just went to 8 minutes. Dan, thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is, but I can't seem to be sculpting on this. I don't know if something got broken, but let me try doing this. I'm just going to duplicate that tool and then delete the initial one and see if this one's any better. Nope, just as bad. All right. Let me try saving and opening the document. So quick save. Okay, so Ryan, you can barely hear me. Is that what you're saying? All right, let me see if I can increase my, I think my microphone volume is at max. So can you hear me okay now, Ryan? Ryan Kelly. So I'll wait for you to get back. I don't know if you're getting a delay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, excuse me, is reload. And see if that fixes the brush problem. If it doesn't, I might have to restart ZBrush, which is fine. Ryan, if you can hear me better, if I speak louder, let me know. Okay, so let's see if this fixed it. No, I'm still having issues. All right, so I'm going to reboot ZBrush, but while I'm doing that, what I'll do is I'll bring up my promo code. As I mentioned earlier, this is for, so this is kind of an image that I did when I was working on the beta for 2019. And this code right here it will give you $30 off a 6-month subscription. So if you aren't a ZBrush user and want to get into it, and you don't want to buy the whole thing, you can subscribe to it, and you can do monthly or 6 months, or I don't know if they have a year, but basically 6 months is a good deal at that price that it is in already, and then this gives you another extra 30% off, so you can try it out for 6 months and make some interesting stuff. And if you think it's something you want to get into, you can continue your subscription, or you can just buy the thing as well. Okay, so all right, let's see. Yes, it's very quiet. I can hear pretty well, though. No worries. I don't know why, but it's powered then. Other things, probably something at my end. Okay, no worries. Is everybody else hearing me okay? If you can chime in, that's great, because I made some changes with my microphone today. Starting your welcome tablet settings when going back into ZBrush flipped. Okay, that could be too. I don't know. We'll see. Hang on. Let's see if this fixes it right here, and if it doesn't, then we will try some other things. So here, let me go back to clay tubes and turn this off. And yeah, I'm having the same weird issue. That's so weird. Let me try something here. Yeah, no, there's nothing hidden. I don't know why I'm getting this. So you're saying Wacom settings? Let's try that. So okay, if you're having brush, starting your Wacom tablet settings, then going back to ZBrush with pen flipped to erase. Okay, let's try that. So here's ZBrush settings. There's an update to the Wacom driver too. I'll update it when I get back. All right, so let me just go to some settings here. There it is. And you're saying go to that. All right. No, it's still kind of wonky. I don't know what's going on. Sometimes what happens is I use Unify. Let's see if that fixes it actually. If I just unify this thing and then that fixes it, but that didn't do it either. So weird. All right, well, I'll figure this out. I guess this is kind of a reason to break. Maybe this is ZBrush saying maybe I should stop. So what I'll do is I'll figure this out, and then we'll kind of pick up from where we are next time. So I'll continue to work on the head next time, but I might do some work on the body. So just to kind of get back to our entire model here. Like so, what I will do is I will work on more the legs and the arms on my own, and continue working on the head and refining it. And then after we're done with that, what we need to do is just kind of start populating this body with little pieces from kit bash kits or stuff that we make, and add a little bit of tertiary detail, add some surface noise, and then get a couple of compositions and render it out. So again, we have about, let's see, we are on week 7, or sorry, week 6. I'm sorry, week 7 is today, and then we're going to go all the way to 9. So we have 3, or let's see, 7, 8, 9. We have 2 more sessions left, and that's plenty of time to finish this thing up. And then I'll probably be taking a bit of a hiatus, and then maybe possibly starting again in the summer. So I want to thank you all for tuning in, and if you have any questions again or anything like that, you can find me on the Pixelogic YouTube channel or the Twitch channel, or on Facebook. and you can go ahead and just send me information there. If you want to send me a friend request, I think I still have a little bit left to add friends, so do that. And I also will be coming up with this insert mesh brush. So when we get done with this project and we have this insert mesh brush over here that we've been working on, what I'm going to do is make that available to you. Let me see if it's here, this one. So that has that new camera lens that we did and this piston and all these different parts. So I'll make sure they're the same size and package them into an insert mesh brush. And I'm also making another insert mesh brush, which I'm going to be selling on Gumroad. So I'll be talking about that in the next couple of sessions as well. So once again, thanks for tuning in. And what we will do is reconnect with you not next Friday, but the Friday after. So let me just see here if there's some last minute remarks. Okay. So great. So thanks for Ryan for letting me know about the audio, that it's clear, and just lower than other things. Yeah, I'm kind of a quiet person, so I'm not a, and also it's, later at night, so I can't keep yelling and screaming. But again, one last time, I will, oh man, this whole time we're working, I still have this image up for the promo code. Let me hide that by the time, I guess if you guys have it by now. So what I was saying is I'm going to be sharing all this with you, this insert mesh brush. So stay tuned for that. I probably will be doing that on the last day. And then this is what our model looks like as kind of a final look at it. And what we're going to do next time, again, is I'll work more on the head. I might do a little bit of work on it, but I'm mostly going to be finishing up the hands here and the arms and the legs for next time. I'll probably do that over the weekend. And so again, not next Friday, but the Friday after is when we will continue this. Again, thank you very much for connecting and for your great questions, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.